Hello! So I'm kasia.luna, and today I am documenting my experience reading A Court of Thorns and Roses for the very first time. So I have resisted reading this book for a really long time because I've actually read one of Sarah J. Maas's other novels called Throne of Glass, and I was not a fan of the writing style. But so many people have hyped this series, and I have seen the most incredible artwork on Instagram, like the best fan art ever that really piques my curiosity. And so I'm gonna give it a go. The only thing I know about it is that it is a Beauty and the Beast retelling, and I do love that fairy tale quite a bit. So I'm gonna take you guys on this journey with me. It is a rainy day here in California right now, so it's the perfect reading conditions. And yeah, see you guys when I'm about 100 pages in. Hi, it's Editing Victoria here, and I realized that I did not give a spoiler warning at the very beginning, but here it is. I will be spoiling A Court of Thorns and Roses. I will be talking about all of my thoughts throughout this video, so if you're still planning to read it, I would come back to this later. But if you've read it already, then I hope you enjoy. Okay, so here are my thoughts so far. I am on chapter 13 and exactly 112 pages in, and I do think Sarah J. Maas has improved quite a bit as a writer. I've been really enjoying the way that she describes things, and I think everything is just flowing a lot better than it did when I was reading A Throne of Glass. I think that's what it was called. I am really sorry if I'm butchering that novel's title. But I am a little bit bored with the characters. Tamlin as a love interest is just very stale right now for me. He's just the brooding Edward Cullen type that we've seen so many times over and over. And yeah, I feel like it's clear that he likes Feyre, but I don't really know why. I don't understand, outside of maybe physical attraction, why he is treating her as well as he is. I do think we're gonna learn more about his backstory, and I will understand all of that a lot more, but right now he is very one note, and I find Lucien a lot more charismatic. I find the chemistry between Feyre and Lucien just way more engaging and captivating, and I know that Tamlin is most likely going to be the beast equivalent of the story, and I'm a bit bummed about that. Feyre also is not all that interesting of a character to me. She reminds me a lot of Katniss Everdeen and is a little bit one note. I hope she becomes more dynamic. I really do. And yeah, I do really hope that the characters develop more and become just more full-rounded people, is what I'll say. Okay, so I forgot to add, not that this is that important, but just wanted to say that I also find how perfect Feyre's life seems in this new fairyland to be a little bit just too good to be true. I hope that some of the thorns start coming out in the Court of Thorns and Roses, if you get what I'm saying. I've learned about the Blight, I've learned about Suriel, but it just seems like her life is perfect right now. And I definitely understand why she wants to escape. I would definitely want to go back to my family, even though her family is rotten from the way they were described. I get not wanting to feel trapped and wanting to resist that. But yeah, Tamlin's character is just so confusing because he's just giving her everything on this silver platter, even though she's killed his friend. But Tamlin, he's weirdly perfect but not, but in a very frustrating way, is what I feel. He's this cookie cutter Prince Charming that's brooding, but a lot of the things that he says and does do have a lot of red flags to them. And so it's making it hard for me to be excited about this romance. Anyway, I feel like I'm ranting and complaining a lot. I am actually enjoying the book. Those are my thoughts. I want Tamlin and Feyre to be more exciting. That's what I want. Okay, so Talon and I are about to go out wine tasting, which is why I'm all dressed up, but I am about 210 pages in, and I just finished the whole Fire Night section of the book, and I have a lot of thoughts that I want to share with you, so I took a bunch of quick notes, and here they are. So, number one is I am still not really feeling the romance between Tamlin and Feyre. I really, really, really desperately want to, but the entire Fire Night just felt so gimmicky to me. The fact that Tamlin gets surged with this hunter-predator magic and he just can't control himself and he has to do a mating ritual in order to fertilize the land just sounds so, I don't know, fan fiction-y to me and just a little bit ridiculous. I actually Googled it afterwards because I know that pagan rituals, there were some pagan rituals that were similar to that, but I just didn't like the imagery of a bunch of fae women lining up in a cave so that he could just choose one as an object to get this ritual done. It just left a very sour taste in my mouth. There is a ritual called Beltane, which is a fire festival. It is Gaelic Celtic in origin, and it takes place around the same time that they say it takes place in this book, where it's May 1st, so it's in between spring and summer, and in the past there were ritual pairings that would honor the fertility gods. But I don't know. The whole thing just felt forced and like a plot device to me. A plot device to make Feyre a little jealous, and a plot device to also allow Tamlin to be this aggressive beast character, which I know he's supposed to be a beast character, but this aggressive, toxic character, I would say. When he bites her, that's just not cool. While also having a plot reason that just excuses it altogether. So in a way, you get this bad boy, huge red flag type, while also being like, hey, it's not his fault. He can't take accountability for it because he's possessed. He's possessed by magic. Anyway, it just didn't sit well with me. It was, yeah, it felt like Sarah J. Maas just wanted the best of both worlds. You can't have a kind, green flag, good man while cursing him with really, really bad behaviors that we're all just meant to be like, oh, that's okay, because it's not his fault. It's not his fault. Okay, also, before I go, I also wanted to rant a little bit about Feyre because I still am not the biggest fan of her. I want to love her so bad, but she just feels so boring. Like, there is no, I'm just scratching on the ground. Hold on, let me lower this camera. There is no depth to her at the moment. There's absolutely no depth to her. I feel like she is meant to be this blank slate character so that any person that's reading it can just input themselves and vicariously live through her, but that just makes her so boring. She feels like Bella Swan from Twilight, where, yeah, she's just the chosen one, but she's the chosen one for no reason, and I want her to be wittier. I want her to have better dialogue. I want to connect with her more. I want her to feel like a character that I would want to have dinner with and be friends with. That's the only way I can really understand why all of these High Lords, I guess Lucien isn't a High Lord. I'm not even really sure if he's in love with her at this point, but it's the only justification for why a High Lord like Tamlin would be so enamored by her so fast. Anyway, I think I'm ranting too much and I really should get going, but I really want to like Feyre if she's going to be the protagonist for the next several books, because right now she's so boring. I want her to have more of a personality. I want to feel like I want to be her friend. I really, really do. Okay, all right, bye guys. Okay, so I am the next 100 rough so pages in. I'm exactly on chapter 37, page 329, and as you can see, I have a lot of thoughts. So, first things first, I think the book is finally starting to get more interesting. I think the stakes are a lot higher. The second that Rhysand, really hope I'm pronouncing his name right, Rhysand enters the Spring Court and has that whole confrontation with Lucien, Tamlin, and Feyre, I think things just start to get much more engaging and compelling, especially compared to the meandering romance that we've experienced so far, or at least that I've experienced so far. When Rhysand finally appears, I had this weird deja vu subconscious moment, and I think it's the fault of all the fan art that I've seen, but I knew that he was most likely going to become a love interest for Feyre. I don't know that for sure yet, but the way that Sarah J. Maas had Feyre describe him in the Fire Night scene, where she just went on and on about how beautiful and sensual he was, I was like, there's no way this is just not foreshadowing. There's no way this is, but also it was just ridiculous. It was like, you're in love with Tamlin, but you're also kind of lusting over this guy. But maybe objectively he is the most beautiful guy she's ever seen. I don't know. But with that context, the whole recent scene was very interesting to experience, because I was like, I think that's the guy that's going to be her love interest, but he's also completely terrible right now. But I digress. Rhysand coming to the Spring Court makes Tamlin feel very anxious about Feyre's safety, and so he sends Feyre back to her home and back to her family. And funnily enough, this was one of my favorite parts of the book so far, where we learn about Nesta's character more, and I was pleasantly surprised at the complexity of her character. I think Nesta is one of the strongest subplots in this book, because it just warmed my heart to hear that she was the only person to actually go out and look for Feyre, and I didn't expect it. And so I love that in books. I love when something like that happens, and yeah. Then Feyre goes back to Prythian because she wants to save her one true love, Tamlin, and we get an exposition dump from Alice describing the curse and what the curse actually was and what the blight actually is. And I just felt like it was convoluted, but also way too specific to exactly what Feyre was experiencing. I know it's based off of Beauty and the Beast, and I think the Beauty and the Beast curse is similar. But the fact that Tamlin had to find a human who hates the Fae with this crazy passion, so much passion that they want to murder the Fae, and then that person has to fall in love with Tamlin, and then they have to say it out loud. It just felt, yeah, just way too specific. There's not much nuance to it. With the grace of it being a Beauty and the Beast retelling, I guess it makes sense. But I couldn't get past the fact that they later describe Tamlin just sending his friends, who are soldiers, out, basically like cannon fodder, like pawns, to be sacrificed for this curse to be broken. I get that it might be for the greater good, but that's just revolting to me. The fact that he was just sitting on his throne in comfort, and his friends were being sent out to die. Okay, so this is the final update. I just had one more thought that I forgot that I had written down here, and that was that I hate the way Feyre talks about humans. On page 252, she says, "Human. He was utterly human, with his rounded ears, his ruddy face, his clothes. The other servants were human too, all of them restless, not at all like the utter stillness with which high fae held themselves. Unfinished, graceless creatures of earth and blood." And all I have to say to that is, Feyre, you are human. You're not fae. Like, why are you all of a sudden so prejudiced towards humans? Or like, describing humans almost like peasants to me just felt wrong. And it just didn't sit quite right with me. And I was just annoyed after reading that. I'm like, what? She spent a month in the Spring Court and now she thinks she's better than them? Once again, she didn't say that, but just the way that she's describing her own people, humanity, was just a little bit insane to me. Okay, now this was the last check-in for real. The next check-in is going to be the very, very end and my conclusive thoughts. Thank you for sticking with me this far. I finally finished A Court of Thorns and Roses last night, and I've been ruminating on my thoughts I have a lot of them, and because of that, I decided to upgrade the production value for this last part. I'm using my better camera, and yeah, let's just dive right into it. So first and foremost, I want to talk about Rysand. I really hope I'm pronouncing his name right, but he is a character that grew on me, and by the end became my favorite character in the book. I'll admit, he does fit right into the character trope that is my ultimate weakness. He gives me a mix of Damon Salvatore from the Vampire Diaries, Howl from Howl's Moving Castle, and he has a little hint of the Darkling from the Grisha series. And for whatever reason, I always find myself drawn to these types of characters, so maybe I was just destined to like him and I am biased. But I do think he's simply just so much more compelling than Tamlin. He actually has a strategy. He's playing the long game like an expert chess player, while to me, Tamlin just reacts to things. There's more depth to Rysand that makes him intriguing, and I couldn't help but be more invested in his character. But that being said, I really didn't like how he basically pimped out Feyre at the parties. It just felt really gross, and I know that he had his reasons for it. He wanted Tamlin to become rageful and kill Amarantha due to his jealousy, but it was still really objectifying to Feyre. But I will say, his fight for Feyre at the end, and especially that line about not wanting her to die alone, really pulled at my heartstrings, and I developed a little bit of a soft spot for him in that moment. Okay, now let's talk about the parts of the book that drove me absolutely insane. So at first, Amarantha seemed like she had potential to me as a villain. I found her compelling at the least, but as the story went on, she became more and more one note, and by the end, she was cartoonishly evil, and I found her almost comical every time she opened her mouth. Nothing she did felt natural to me. It was like Sarah J Maas hit a point where she just needed the plot to move forward, so she threw in the easiest riddle ever. And a set of trials to just pad the story out. And you all know that I already had issues with how contrived the curse rules were. But then, on top of that, Amarantha kept making up arbitrary rules for the trials, like some kind of mustache-twirling villain in a fantasy game show. Nothing about it felt organic. It was all just plot devices stacked on top of each other. And then there was the riddle. Oh my god, I had so many problems with just how unbelievably easy this riddle was, and yet Feyre somehow did not get it until the most dramatic last-second moment when the entire world was crumbling and everyone was dying. It was so frustrating and over the top and just ridiculous to me, and I just sat there rolling my eyes instead of being excited. And this is a big reason why I don't like Feyre as a main character. If she had just solved that ridiculously simple riddle earlier, 2 innocent Fae lives would have been spared. And not only did she not get it, but when she did finally guess correctly, Sarah J Maas felt the need to explain and hold her hand through every single line of the riddle afterward, and I really thought the riddle was self-explanatory. I was so annoyed about it that I ranted to my fiance Talon about it, and here's a clip of that.
Hold on, is there any additional context that I need to inform myself that you might have had?
No, because that's what I was originally thinking too. I was reading it and I'm like, this is way too obvious. Maybe the answer, actually I shouldn't give you any, I can't. Okay. All right,
prepare for disappointment. I wish I had glasses for a time. Is it fate? Love?
There you go.
What? But to me, fate and love are inextricably tied, for if your fate is without love, then what is the point of it to begin with?
Hello, it is Editing Victoria again, and I just wanted to say I watched the video of Talon guessing the riddle, and he did guess fate before love, and I thought that was interesting because I was reminded of the fact that right before Feyre stabs Tamlin in the heart, she has this monologue. I got Talon to read it for us, so please enjoy.
There was such a thing as fate, because fate had made sure that I was there to eavesdrop when they'd spoken in private, because fate had whispered to Tamlin that the cold, contrary girl he dragged to his home would be the one to break this spell, because fate had kept me alive just to get to this point, just to see if I had been listening.
And so, in a way, Talon's theory about love and fate being intertwined is something that I think Sarah J. Maas was hinting at, and yeah, I just thought that was interesting. But man, I didn't like the whole stone heart plotline at all. I felt like it was also very contrived. She mentions it like once in the book, and we're supposed to just be like, yeah, a Deus Ex Machina way to get Feyre to be able to kill him. Anyway, alright, back to the video. Amarantha could have just killed Feyre instantly if she really wanted to, which is literally what she decided to do right after the trial anyway, completely arbitrarily and without caring about her own rules. So yeah, it was all just so silly, and it was just an unrealistic way to drag things out. It was maddening for me to read. And then of course, Feyre becomes High Fae at the end, which was a total Deus Ex Machina moment. Like, I understand, yes, she saved the Fae, but these High Lords that give her this crystal shard or whatever we've been told that they are practically monsters. Like, Lucian's father watched Feyre kill 2 innocent people in cold blood and just went, yep, let's make her one of us. Like, make it make sense. We were told that he is a terrible, terrible person. He wouldn't do that. With all of that being said, my final rating is 2.5 out of 5 stars, a very, very neutral one, because despite everything, I did have fun reading it, but the plot was just not for me. I do enjoy Sarah J. Maas's writing style, but when it comes to the plot and character development, I don't think she's particularly strong, at least not in this book. I really wanted to feel more organic love between the characters, and I just didn't. And the fantasy world, it wasn't fully fleshed out. It felt more like a series of contrived rules and plot padding than an immersive, well-built world. But that all goes to say I am going to give the second book a chance, and that is because I have heard from multiple people that this is where the plot really picks up. And even though the ending of A Court of Thorns and Roses was really over the top for me, I did enjoy the latter half of the book more than I enjoyed the beginning. So I'm curious where the story will go now that it's no longer a strictly Beauty and the Beast retelling. I have some hope that Sarah J. Maas might deliver something better now, that she's not tethered to that story structure. So those are all of my thoughts about A Court of Thorns and Roses. I'm sorry if a lot of them were negative, but I do really want to hear all of your opinions if you've read the series, and I'm excited to talk to someone about it. So let me know what you think in the comments below, and I will definitely try my best to get back to you. And stay tuned, I think I might just do a vlog like this for book 2. So yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you hopefully in my next video. Goodbye.